Hi, everybody. This is Alpha. I'm the host of Stories from Behind the Counter. Before we get started in any of these episodes, I just wanted to give a little disclaimer. Some of these stories are not exactly family friendly, especially not very child friendly. Some of them do use some strong language. Some of them do talk about some rather vile things sometimes. Others is just not exactly something some people might want their children or anyone else around them to hear. Not exactly public friendly. If you have a job in general, you know what I'm talking about. Some things that happen in life are just not public, perfect conversation. So, with that in mind, please keep in mind where you're listening to this, who you're listening to it around, and how you're going to listen to it. Also, if you have any stories that you would like to share with me, please send them my way. I am always up for more stories. I only have so much as my own. So if you have anything you want to share with me, please feel free to share them with me in my email account. Send them to workwithalphag@gmail.com. That is workwithalphag@gmail.com. One last thing I wanted to remind you all about is please make sure you're following me. I am not just on one platform. I am on Spotify, Patreon, Castbox, Podbean, and Buzzsprout. So please, if you have any of those, Patreon is probably going to help me out the best, and hopefully later on it'll be able to help you guys out as well. For $1 a month, you'll be getting ad-free episodes, as well as later on I'm hoping to be able to do Q&As, just be able to talk with you guys, one-on-one conversations, group chats, whatever. So please make sure you're checking it all out. Let's get into the episode. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Stories from Behind the Counter, and I'm your host, Alpha. So just real quick, I do want to give a quick apology to anyone who could not handle listening to the full episode last episode. That one was pretty rough. I promise not every story from here on out is going to be that crazy. I'm sure we will have a couple more episodes that are just going to be downright vulgar, and I will try to give an extra warning at the beginning before I do those episodes like I did last time. I know this isn't exactly something most people want to hear sometimes, some of those gross stories and the absolute craziness, but at the same time, for anyone who's worked these jobs, most of us really cannot afford therapy. So we need to be able to talk about it one way or another, and hopefully this can be a platform for some people to be able to vent out some of that stuff they can't afford to go to therapy for. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into today's episode. Today's first story is actually from Miss K. She's the one who provided the last bit of the last episode, that very last story. This one is at a different place. K says, when I was a general manager of a diner chain somewhere up in Oregon, I sent 2 of my employees outside to clean the parking lot. While they were cleaning by some of the bushes, one of them found a plastic 9mm toy gun. Keep in mind, I am not aware of this, and the restaurant itself is on a very busy road. Anyway, they're messing around, playing with this toy gun, and a concerned driver passes by and ends up calling 911, stating that there are 2 Hispanic males out in front of this restaurant waving around a 9mm. Well, the workers end up coming back in, they continue working, and the next thing I know, our whole entire building is being surrounded by the SWAT team. They come in, and it's in a very busy restaurant with shields up, guns drawn, all bells and whistles. Obviously, since I have no clue what's transpired, I'm like, what the fuck is happening? So the police explained to me what happened, and they asked where the 2 associates were and where the gun was. Again, I didn't know any of this was going on. So I go and get 2 employees, and I ask them, hey, did you guys find a gun outside? The SWAT team is here, and they're not very happy. Well, they finally got the plastic gun, and they gave it to the police. Ended up having to explain the whole entire thing, and all I can say is I hope they learned their lesson. Don't wave a gun in a parking lot, or in a public area in general. This is me speaking as Alpha again. Holy hell. I can't believe people are so stupid. Even if you grow up in a state where they don't really talk about guns, one of the first things they tell you is that guns are not a toy. So even if you find a toy gun, you gotta be careful with it, especially if it looks real. In this day and age, those guys probably could have and might have been shot, especially if SWAT had gotten there any sooner before they came into the building. It just amazes me. But thank God it didn't end worse. This day and age, we all know it could have. Parents, please, even if you don't like guns, make sure your children understand the gravity of the situation on any time they have one in their hand, whether it's real or fake. Time and a place for everything. Especially when you're at work. Come on, guys. That just... some people. Anyway, moving on to the next story. This next one comes from a former coworker of mine. We're going to call her Tilly. Tilly says, I was working at a retail grocery store as a cashier. It was maybe around my first month with that particular company, and even though I had been in retail cashiering for about 10 years at this point, I was being shadowed. Well, I was ringing up this old couple's items when the husband started telling me that I had switched some items because he would never buy them. My shadow, or some people know them as a watcher, stepped in and tried to tell him that there's no way I was doing that. He yelled and he screamed at me until he was hoarse. By that time, my manager came over asking what was wrong, and my watcher explained what was happening. The elderly gentleman's wife, God love her, was trying to tap him on the shoulder for about 5 minutes off and on while he was just going off on all of us. When he finally turned around to see what she wanted, she said, I was buying those things because you're too cheap to buy the real thing. I don't like the store brand stuff. The husband turned around, looked at me, and without missing a beat, he says I put her up to it. At that point, I couldn't hold back any longer. I just started laughing until I was sitting on the floor. My watcher helped me up. I finished ringing up the transaction, bagging it, and his wife was so red in the face and just continued to apologize profusely. As they were leaving, I gave her a hug and told her not to worry about it, and they were gone. Luckily enough, my watcher and my manager let me sit for a few minutes after that. Thank goodness. This is me as Alpha again. This story is hilarious to me because it sounds so ridiculous, but this is the type of thing that happens every single day when you work in retail. You get accused of some of the stupidest stuff ever, even though it's literally almost completely impossible for you to swap out someone's groceries while you're at the register. They'll accuse you of it. This especially happens with a lot of the older generation, sadly. They're the type of people that always tell you they know what they buy, when they buy it, and where they buy it. That old mindset of the customer is always right. Well, they're not. I'm glad in this particular situation, the wife tried to speak up, even though the husband didn't really want to listen or admit he was wrong. At least she tried to speak up, and the situation ended better than it could have. But that one's pretty funny. Good job, Tilly. You handled it pretty well. I think I would have lost it laughing a long time before you did. Alright, so moving on to the next story. This one is going to be from yet another coworker of mine. I really do appreciate a lot of these stories that came in from people to help me get the show started. I really do hope to hear more from other people who I don't actually know. I'm intrigued to hear other stories. Anywho, we're going to call my former coworker Harmony. So Harmony says, this story is about one particular customer who is always a total ass. We're going to call him Dee. At the time, he was a well-known business owner in the city that I live in. He just bought a very well-known restaurant and was therefore taking it over as the new owner and operator. Well, he ordered an ice machine for his restaurant from where I work. And when he came in to pick up said ice machine, I'm looking over his order, and it says that it's in. So I go to our receiving department, and I retrieve it. I bring back this one big old box. Well, already there's an issue. Dee starts getting irate with me, and he starts yelling that it's supposed to be 2 boxes because it's an ice machine. It needs to be 2 boxes, the top and the bottom part. I tell him, well, I understand. Let me look into it. But he doesn't give me a chance to do anything. He starts going off on me, cursing at me, calling me names, and telling me I'm terrible. He starts saying things like, "How could you not fucking know that's supposed to have 2 boxes?" I tried telling him one more time, "Sir, please let me look into this. Maybe the other box is in the back somewhere in a different spot, in a different staging area. Maybe it was delayed in shipping. Sometimes that happens. Please just give me a moment." He does not take that as an answer, and he's still going off on me, and he keeps repeating over and over, "I'm terrible at my job because it's supposed to be in 2 boxes. That was basically on repeat, like a broken record. I keep trying to tell him I'm sorry. I understand. Sometimes they come in separate shipments. Sometimes they get split into different staging areas. Let me reach out to someone. Let me try and figure out what's going on, okay? But of course, everything I'm saying is falling on deaf ears, because the moment I brought up that 1 box, it was damn near a death sentence for me. Nothing I had to say mattered. He eventually calls over a manager and starts telling the manager, "Oh, she's terrible at her job. She's terrible at customer service. She needs to be fired." And then he calls over a couple of his goonies that I hadn't even seen up until this point. Well, these goonies come over and start telling the manager that, "Oh, I'm such a terrible bitch. They've dealt with me before, and I absolutely need to be fired." Which, mind you, I know I deal with a lot of people in a day, but I've never seen these people at the desk I was working at. But anyway, he made sure he told my boss a couple of times that I should be fired. So basically, I'm getting blamed at this point for all of the shipping issues. The customer causes so much of a ruckus that he ends up getting the entire ice maker for free, and of course, the missing box comes in within the next day or two. Fast forward about a week or two, and I'm at a restaurant bar sitting down in the outside seating area. I'm just chit-chatting with some people out there, and I meet a gentleman who tells me he works at Dee Dee's restaurant. I tell him, "I'm so sorry. That must suck. That guy's a total ass. I've dealt with him before. Must be terrible working for him." Then he proceeds to tell me that's his dad. Awkward. Obviously, we did not talk much after that. But this is one of those sweet revenge moments, because Dee Dee's business actually ended up going out of business a couple of months after the interaction, and he ended up losing the place because he's such a terrible boss, and it ended up he wasn't paying any of his employees. This is me speaking as Alpha. Karma is such a bitch, especially when you are. When you go out of your way to try and treat people like shit, to cut costs or get anything for free, or even just because you think you have that right for whatever reason, karma's gonna get you. I feel like it serves this guy right. I'm glad he went out of business. Don't get me wrong. I am all for someone trying to run their own business, make their money, do what you enjoy. Something like that. But if you own a business, you're not paying your employees, and you just go around, people know you own this restaurant, and you treat them like crap, that's not going to make anyone want to go to your restaurant anyway. If you're going to be a business owner, you need to act like a business owner, and you need to treat everybody with respect. Well, thank you, Harmony. That was a very interesting story, and you actually sent me a few, so I'm going to go ahead and just do them all in order here, the way you sent them to me, or at least the way I received them. Harmony goes on saying, "This incident comes from when I worked at a big hardware retailer. I was working at the customer service desk, and we had dealt with this guy a couple of times before. It was always the same thing. The customer would cross behind the desk in the walkway that we had there, strictly for the associates. It was only access behind the registers and all the money. Customers are not allowed back here. It was an employees only area. We tried to make that very clear. We would have to regularly tell this one specific gentleman, 'Sir, you can't be back here.' And he would get irate and cuss at us and walk away. Well, one day, for the umpteenth millionth time, he came over and did the same thing that he usually does. And it was just me and another coworker up there. He walks through the employees only area, so of course we try to tell him again, 'Sir, you're not allowed to be back here behind the desk.' He goes, 'I'm just looking for the concrete. Where's the bag concrete?' So we tell him, 'Well, it's not over here. It's on the other side of the store. Can you please come out from behind my desk and we can answer any further questions? You're just not allowed to be back here.' Then, of course, he responds with, 'I'm just looking for concrete, you fucking bitches. Why can't you help me? Why do you keep repeating the same shit?' So, again, we try to say, 'Because you are not allowed to be back here. It's a restricted area, employees only, and you always walk through here. We need you to stop." So then he starts cussing us out and saying all kinds of profane things, as well as advancing towards us. I'm not going to lie, it was kind of scary because you could tell this guy was a bit unhinged. At least I thought he looked unhinged. And it was just me and another female. Sadly, we see customers like this almost every day working behind the customer service desk. I can't tell you how many times I've been threatened with physical violence. But luckily enough, he finally starts storming off, and he's telling us that he's going to find the bag concrete, and he's going to come back, and he's going to throw it at us. So basically, he's just flat out telling us he's going to assault us with a 60-pound bag of concrete mix, spewing all sorts of different profanities at us the entire way. This one just got to me a little because he got really close to me. He was up in my personal space, probably less than a couple of feet away, and he was cussing at me the entire time. All sorts of different profane things because he simply was asked not to cross behind the cash registers. This is me as Alpha again. I can definitely attest to people getting irate and flat out threatening to hurt or even sometimes threatening to kill somebody just because they feel like you're attacking them for doing something that is wrong. But they don't want to say that it's wrong. They don't want to believe that they're in the wrong. So when you give them the answer they don't like or tell them they're doing something wrong, they just kind of get unhinged. Now, like I've said before, I'm in a bit of a redneck area. I see what men do. I even kind of get it when a man wants to puff up to another man, trying to have one of them dick swinging contests, trying to be the alpha dog in any situation. That's just what men tend to do. But when you start not only cussing at, but threatening women like that and start approaching them, it shows how much of a piece of shit you are in all aspects of your life. One of these days, you're going to do it to or in front of the wrong person, and you may get arrested, you may get your ass kicked, maybe even both. It's not worth it. Why not just treat people with respect? Quit being a douchebag. I'm sorry that you had to go through this, Harmony, but it sounds like you handled this one very well. My personal suggestion for you and anyone else that has anything like this happen, please, if someone is coming at you with very obvious ill will and you have a chance, if you have a phone, you can hit the page button overhead, blast it overhead. Keep yourself safe at all costs. I'm curious how management handled this situation after you told them. Please get back to me on that. Well, moving on to one more from Harmony. Harmony says, "This is from when I worked at an ice cream shop somewhere in California. I was the manager there, so I had to open the store in the morning, and it would just be me until the mid-shift or the closer came in later on that day. So I'm walking up to the store to open it, and there's a homeless man sleeping outside of the store, really close to the doors. Keep in mind, all of these doors are glass, and all of the front of the store is all window. So everything is visible in there. So I'm like, well, fuck. I need to quickly get in there and open the door ASAP. As soon as I try to unlock it, the homeless man starts stirring from his sleeping bag and waking up. So now I'm kind of freaking out a little bit just because I didn't want any weirdness to happen this early in the morning. As I get inside, I lock the door, and just at that moment, the guy pops up and starts banging on the glass. And this guy looks deranged. He's got wild eyes, he's foaming at the mouth, spittle coming down, the whole bit. But thankfully, the doors are locked, so I at least have that in between me and him, and it's about an hour before I have to unlock the doors for the shop to open. So I start setting up for the day. While I'm doing that, I keep glancing over at him, and at this point, he has pulled out some scissors out of his bag and starts making a cutting motion across his own throat while staring at me dead in the eyes through the glass. Obviously, at this point, the intentions seem clear. He wants to kill me or cut my throat or do something kind of crazy. So I'm getting pretty freaked out at this point. I don't even dare to open the doors. This guy's bigger than me, and he's armed with scissors. I'm hoping he just leaves, but he doesn't stop. He actually just starts getting a little more wild and a little more crazed. So he starts screaming and yelling at me that he wants to kill me. So at this point, I've had enough, and I call the cops. They show him away and take his scissors. Sadly, this crazy man saga does not stop there. He comes in the ice cream shop about a week later, luckily when I was there with other people. We stayed open a little bit late, till about maybe 1 in the morning sometimes, so it was probably around midnight at this point when he comes walking in. There's no other customers, just me and another coworker. The homeless man comes in with no pants on and decides to start stripping, so he's trying to take off his shirt and anything else he has on as well. It seems like he was just trying to get completely naked, for whatever reason. I was just happy he didn't have any weapons on him or was trying to show that he wanted to kill me. Honestly, in a way, he seems to be in a little bit better of a mood than the last time I dealt with him. He must not be a morning person. But he's trying to take his shirt off in the middle of the ice cream store lobby, while we're telling him, "No sir, you can't do that in here. Please go outside. Just get out." Of course, he's not listening. He's in his own little world. He spots our freezers of ice cream cakes that we have on display, and he starts walking over, and he's trying to open the door. But luckily, he can't figure out where the handle is. And of course, we're not going to let him do that on our watch. So we go over, we block the freezer, and we tell him to get out. He eventually gave up on stealing the ice cream cake and left the store that day. But it continues on. He comes in again, probably about a week later, while I'm there in the morning by myself again, after the store's already open, so the doors are unlocked. And of course, I recognize him, but he doesn't look as crazy today, so I don't see any weapons. I'm hoping he's not tweaking out or whatever was going on with him. I'm hoping today's going to be a better day. So I ask him, "Hi, how can I help you?" And he starts rattling off a bunch of nonsense about wanting some Mickey Mouse ice cream. He keeps repeating that over and over again, pointing to the glass and smearing it. And then he starts spitting on the glass and smearing that all over the place too. And then he pulls some garbage out from somewhere and starts throwing it at me. Then he walks out and leaves. Yeah, I had a lot of fun times at the ice cream store. Well, this is me speaking as Alpha again. That's definitely something that would rival one of the places I worked at. That's pretty insane. Luckily enough, you were smart not to try and engage with him. You called the cops. Sadly, they were less than helpful in my opinion, but there's only so much they can do. But I'm glad nothing too horribly crazy happened to you. You weren't injured. You just probably got a little bit on the traumatized side. As bad as that sounds, at least that's the only thing that happened. Alright guys, I think we're going to go ahead and try and wrap this up with one last thing from Miss Harmony here. This, I think, is a good segment. I would like to hear more from other people concerning this particular topic. This one is just a bit of a segment on things that people say, creepy things, violent things, all things that she has personally dealt with while at work. She wants you to keep in mind that these are all men that could be her father's age, 60 to 70 plus. She's a woman in her early 30s who would never really ask for these people's types of opinions. She's just trying to do her job. But in customer service, you have to listen to some of the weirdest stuff with a smile on your face, sometimes being flirted with against your will, or being degraded, or sometimes worse. One of the first things she's dealt with is people saying, "It's so nice to see a woman wearing a dress again. I love seeing a woman in a dress." To which she says, "It's not like I dress to please men, but I've heard this too many times to count. I'm not sure if it's nostalgia for them or just some sort of weirdness, but it usually comes across rather creepy. I don't go around saying to guys, 'Oh, it's nice to see men wearing slacks.' That's just weird. Whatever my opinion is, cool, but you don't need to go and tell people that kind of stuff. It's just a little on the weird side." One of the other things she gets a lot is, "Why does a pretty woman like you have so many tattoos? You know they're permanent, right? Why would you get a tattoo and defile your body like that? The Bible's so against tattoos." Those were a couple of different ones that she gave me, but all same general idea. And you'd be surprised how often men and women both get that, just from a lot of religious zealots that want to voice their opinion that you did not ask for. And to answer that question for most of you, if any of you people who love to ask that question are listening, yes, we do realize they're permanent. Your beliefs are your beliefs, my beliefs are my beliefs. Let's move along with life. Anyway, back to the story. One of the other things that she had to deal with often is people constantly asking her, "Would you like to go out to dinner with me? Oh, you have beautiful eyes. We should go dancing." Or, "You want to go to Vegas with me?" Which, I'm sorry, that's more than a quick drive from where I live. And you want me to go there with a stranger? Haha, no. One of the other regular things that she has to deal with, and this is something else a lot of people deal with, I'm sure. I know I've had to deal with this type of thing before, is when you're done with a customer, for one reason or another, either you think you're done helping them or they're being disrespectful, so you just try to alleviate the situation and get out of there before it escalates. And they holler at you, "Bitch, I'm still talking to you." She's been called multiple names, bitch, cunt, whatever. It's just something people do. They get mad and they take it out on us by calling us everything but a human fucking being. She said she's also been threatened with punches to the face. As we went over in one of the last stories from her, she has also had customers threaten to throw a 60-pound bag of concrete at her. There's also been a couple of times where she's gone up, or people will walk up to the desk and she'll say, "Oh, hi, can I help you?" And they'll say, "You don't look like you know anything." Or, "No, I don't need a woman. I need to ask a man this question." Or one of my personal favorites, when you're young, they say, "Oh, you're too young to help me. Why are you even here?" They always try to believe that if we don't match their idea of what a professional looks like, we must not know anything. She says she also has people asking her constantly, "Do you know what your necklace means?" She says she wears a pentacle. So a lot of these guys, or even women, tell her, "You're going to hell." They've also told her, "You look disgusting with these tattoos." It's kind of annoying. I personally wear a Thor's hammer, and I get that quite a lot to the religious zealots that come in and want to tell me I'm going to hell, I don't know what I'm wearing, I'm asking for trouble, all sorts of stuff. Again, your beliefs are your beliefs, my beliefs are my beliefs. Act like an adult, let's all just move along with life. She's also tried to go up and ask people, "Hi, can I help you?" And another common answer is, "No, but you can touch my wood." That one's from when she worked at a hardware store where they sell lumber. Of course, guys are going to crack that stupid joke because it's so funny, right? Someone's told her before, "You're so sweet. I want all women to be like you because some of them are real bitches." That one's an interesting one. And finally, the granddaddy of all Jeepers Creepers comments that she's had at work is someone came up and said, "Oh, I saw you at your house. I did the fencing work across the street. You still live there on the corner, right? Oh, by the way, me and my wife aren't getting along very well right now." Yeah, that's creeper to the max. And just completely uncouth. It amazes me what people think and are willing to say without thinking about the consequences, thinking about how people will take it, whether it's meant as a joke or if you're being serious or whatever. It's actually kind of disturbing, some of the things that come out of people's mouths. If anyone else has any comments or things like this where they get it a lot, some of the craziest things people have ever said to you, one reason or another, please send them in to me. This actually gave me the idea to throw in a couple of my own little things. Like I said, I've dealt with some of these same ones that Miss Harmony had brought up. But I remember one time working at a fast food place, I asked if the gentleman who wanted some ice cream with some candy in it, I asked him, "Well, okay, well, would you like Butterfinger or M&M?" The old man looked at me like I had smacked him, and then he goes, "What did you say? Are you coming on to me?" Yeah, I was shocked. Thank God my manager was behind me. She turned, looked at him, said, "You need to turn up your hearing aid. He asked you if you want Butterfinger or M&M in your ice cream." I also like to be rather festive around the holidays, so I tend to wear Easter stuff, Christmas stuff, Halloween stuff, whatever kind of theme is going on. I try to be festive, try to have fun, and try to brighten someone else's day. You never know what might help someone else. Well, one Christmas, I'm working at this big retail place. I'm just walking through, and I had somebody stop me and ask me, "Son, don't you think that hat looks a little faggoty on you?" I had to walk away. I didn't even bother answering him. Otherwise, it probably would have just started a fight. Just the things that people are willing to say without even thinking. And they really think it's okay. Anywho, I think we're going to go ahead and call this an episode, wrap it up for the day. Thanks again for listening, guys. Obviously, I try to keep everyone's identities safe so that they can be protected so there's no backlash from any of these companies or anyone else for any reason whatsoever. So for everyone sending in their stories, I thank you. Whatever I call you on the show is all you will ever be known as. With that being said, I want to give a big shout out and a big thank you to Denise Esparza for the artwork. She's the one who did the little thumbnail that you see when I upload all of my episodes, and I do look forward to working with her for any changes in artwork that I decide to do later. If you're interested in seeing anything else and more artwork that she does, you can follow her on Nisi Art on Instagram. That's NEISSE_ART on Instagram. Also, big shout out and a thank you to Nivation. He's the one responsible for the music you hear at the beginning and the ending of the episodes. If you wish to follow him and see what else he provides musically, that is Nivation. Spotify is the only platform that he gave me to shout him out on, but I just wanted to make sure he got the credit for what he did for me. I really do appreciate everything you guys have done for me to help me get this show started and to keep it going. Thank you guys. I really honestly could not have done this without you. For everyone else, thank you again for all your stories. I hope that you guys are enjoying this. One last reminder, please do not forget to check me out pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast. That's where I'm trying to get to. Obviously, the biggest ones I'm going to be on are Patreon and Spotify, but check me out, see where you can find me. Patreon will be the biggest help for me, and as I'm pretty sure I've stated before, that will also help you guys later on. I'm hoping to be able to do live Q&As. I'm hoping to be able to do conversations, one-on-one chats, group chats. I don't care. Maybe like some of the other people I've listened to doing podcasts, we can even make trips out of this and just make it a community. I just want to have fun with this, so I hope you guys are enjoying it, and I hope you can help make the community I'm looking to make. Thanks again, guys. This is Alpha signing off. See you next episode.